The whiskey market has been falling since 2022, but maybe the problem isn't whiskey and it maybe isn't the market. What if the problem was the auctioneers themselves? Well, in this video, that is the question that we're going to address and take a look to see whether, auctioneers are actually creating this downward cycle in the market. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's been a while, hasn't it? I think there's no no mistaking I've not exactly been on my A game filming, but you know what? I've been busy and we're going to have a lot more videos coming out. We've got a new filming setup. I don't know if you can notice a difference in the video and the audio, but hopefully lots more content coming this way for you and some on location stuff as well at some exciting distilleries up in Scotland. But yes, are auctioneers killing the whiskey market? And yes, but also what I'm going to say in this video needs to be taken from a position of love, because the auctioneers themselves have created the market. They've created the whiskey industry. They've employed hundreds. They've added so many millions, if not billions, to the economy, and they've helped a lot of people make a lot of money. But the 3 points that I'm going to look at in this video need to be considered, because if we've come this far without them, just imagine what can be achieved if auctioneers actually get their act together. It's actually a blessing, this. We've come so far, and there's actually some fundamental problems that need fixing. So anyway, basically look at LinkedIn, look at Facebook, look anywhere. Gen Z aren't drinking, there's a problem with whiskey, no one's buying it anymore. There's going to be another whiskey lock. Look, people, we're suffering with high inflation and the whiskey market's cool, but the art market's cool. Does that mean art market's irrelevant? No, of course it doesn't. People aren't buying luxury watches anymore. Does that mean keeping time isn't relevant? Of course not. We're in an inflationary period, and that means discretionary spending is lower, and that has an impact on all luxury goods. Now, the bizarre thing about whiskey is that the entire secondary market is created by the online auctions and the development of these online auctions. Because if you've got a watch, you can sell that watch on eBay, you can sell it on Facebook, you can sell it at a local auction house. There's 101 different ways in which you can sell your watch. Same with art, same with cars. There's so many different ways that you can sell luxury goods, except whiskey, because it's licensed and it's regulated. You need a premises license, a personal license. There's so many requirements that you need to sell it, that the influx of online whiskey auctions really have created their own little micro market, because we've got so much data, and this means that we can see so much of what's happening. And it's completely unique in that respect, in terms of that all the transactions are happening within a very small number of platforms. And literally there's 20,000-30,000 bottles a month being sold. And especially at the peak, there's probably close to 35,000-40,000 bottles a month being sold. And we've got all of this data. And, instead of, like I say, this is coming from a position of love, but let's look at some of the things that auctioneers are getting wrong. And first of all, before we jump into that, give me 2 seconds. Why am I qualified to say this? Well, I was an auctioneer for 10 years. I was a bricks and mortar auctioneers, hammering the gavel, selling things. I worked for Tenants Auctioneers up in North Yorkshire, one of the biggest provincial sale rooms in the country. We sold about £1.5 million worth of antiques a month. I understand the infrastructure of auctions and how they operate, and I still do a lot of independent valuations now, so I understand it. And this brings me on to my first main problem with the online whiskey auctions, and it's quite a big one really, even though it sounds quite small. There's no estimates. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's try and take a look. Let me see if my new way of doing things will actually work. Let's try this. So hopefully now you can see this Bonham's auction. This is the Jewels online auction. And look, lo and behold, every single lot, I'm using the saleroom.com, which is like an aggregator of all different lots. This is looking at every single lot here that's in this Bonham sale, and every lot has an estimate. So you can see if you wanted to bid on this onyx and coral necklace, well, there's an estimate of £800 to £1,200. So you know roughly what you're going to be needing to bid to buy it. It's pretty much the same with any online auction that you can find. Most of the sale rooms will have prices and estimates on their auctions. Now, the reason why this is bad for an online auction and for the whiskey auctions is manifold. First of all, we're assuming that the people who attend and bid at these auctions know exactly what they're doing. So we're literally saying that if you don't understand the whiskey market, you can't bid in this auction. You fool, just keep bidding until you win it. But that's not really good customer service. You need to guide people with these estimates. Now, some of them do have these fancy graphs in their auction lots now that say, this is a historic price for this bottle. Well, yeah, so you're giving a cryptic message. So if you can log into this and if you can find this little graph and understand how the market's changed, because that bottle might have only appeared once every 2 years, then you can have your estimate. We all have the data. We all know what these bottles should be making in the current market, except nobody puts estimates on them. So we're making it very difficult for consumers to actually, or new consumers to come and bid in these sales. But furthermore, there's another problem here, is that because of like how the law works in the UK, I've never actually got to the bottom of this, but you can't have a reserve that's higher than the low estimate. So if an item is in an auction, a public auction at £800 to £1,200, the reserve can be no higher than £800. Because if you're saying that this is estimated between £800 and £1,200, you're misleading somebody to say that the reserve, there's a £900 reserve there because it couldn't be bought within the estimate. So that means that when an item has an estimate on it, you're able to identify the reserve. So, for instance, let's say you use Macallan Private Eye, for instance. If a bottle of Macallan Private Eye was in auction and it had an estimate in today's market of £7,000 to £9,000, you would just skip it. You'd be like, no way am I bidding on that. It's not worth £7,000. But if you saw it had an estimate of £1,000 to £1,500, blimey, I'm getting bidding on that. I know I've got a chance of getting it. But the problem is that there's so many reserves now, you just get bid fatigue. I've given up, I must admit, at buying at auction now, because half the time you just end up bidding against a reserve that you don't know whether it's at an accurate 2025 price or a misleading 2022 price. And there are some auctioneers, I think Whisky Auctioneer have a policy that the reserve can be no higher than 20% less of the last hammer price, but that's a lot of information to take in. So those silly reserves, which in part don't allow them to have estimates, because no auctioneer would disclose that these lots are in at misleading prices that aren't going to sell. So I do think that's the problem. I think it's that lack of honest and transparency that means that we're only allowing, it's very exclusive, isn't it? You've got to know what this bottle's worth in order to know what to bid. Like, it doesn't happen in any other auction, in any other category, except the online whiskey auctions. Anyway, number 2, hang on a minute. 1 second, people. I left my prop. And this prop is a great prop. So this is a Lion & Turnbull catalogue. Lion & Turnbull, very big auctioneers up in Edinburgh. And this is what sells. This is a modern-made catalogue. Is that Charles on the front? I don't know. But look, inside it, there's lots of really nice pictures, big double-page spreads. Let's see if we can find one. Big write-ups about the lots. And let's just see if we can find a nice, interesting one here. Let's see. Yeah, look at this. Look at that write-up for a £10,000 to £15,000 lot. Tells you all about the provenance, how important it is. And look at that. If this lands on your doorstep, you're going to take a browse. These are devastating to receive through the post, because you just end up idly browsing and going, oh man, you fall in love with something. But these catalogues are a mainstay of antiques auction. So Bonhams, Christie's, Sotheby's, most of those auction houses, and most of the provincial ones like Lion & Turnbull, Tennants, they make catalogues. They send them out to a select number of customers, their high net worth customers, and you're also available to buy them. And it does 2 things. And this, my point is not the catalogues themselves, but the pretty terrible marketing that these online auctions have, because this is like a mainstay of a traditional auction house. Let's see how, there's a group of 3 paintings there, and it's £600 to £800, and you get a nice illustration in the catalogue, and you get a nice write-up about it too. And let's see if you've got a nice collection from Scotty Wilson. Never heard of Scotty Wilson, but they've done a big catalogue write-up about it, and lots of details in here about the artworks that are being offered. Looks amazing. The problem with the online auctions is that if you put a £10,000 bottle in, it's being treated in exactly the same way. Hell, you put a £100,000 bottle in, it's being treated in the same way as a £20 bottle of whiskey. It's just basically, it's going to go online. It's going to have a little box and you can click and you can bid on it. There's no other marketing material. Yeah, there might be some stuff on social media, but that's another problem. Nobody can drive clicks out of social media. Let me come back to my lovely little example again here. Let's just go and look on here. Let's use a good example. Let's go to Vogue on Instagram. 51 million followers. 51 million followers. Let's scroll down a bit so that we can get down to some of their posts that have been out a while. When you say a while, it could have only been a few days. What's this? 57,000 likes, 190,000 likes, 34,000 likes. Percentage calculator online. Let's be kind. Let's say 200,000 of 51. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Their engagement rate is 0.3%. Like back in the day, you could drive traffic, you could drive business from online and social media. But in the last 2-3 years, especially, that has disappeared and that's left a problem. This is the sort of stuff that auctioneers need to be producing, which costs loads of money. It doesn't technically make them any money because you can't actually say, well, the bidding was increased on that lot because of how it was dealt with. But again, pretty much every auction house in the land, any other auction other than online whiskey auctions, produced catalogues and produced high quality materials. Now, I'm not saying that this is needed for every single lot in every single sale, but why not make a small 10, 15 page catalogue and send it out to your key buyers? Bloody hell, if they were posted to me, we would be talking about them on this channel. And you get the understanding, you get the context. And when you buy your bottle, oh, look, it was in this catalogue. It helps, it builds. So we're missing this opportunity of like premium marketing and that premium marketing and presentation. Like, how are you going to convince somebody to spend £100,000 on a bottle of whiskey, £10,000 for that matter? Let's take a Black Bowmore of £10,000-15,000. Why are you going to buy that? It's just a bottle in the auction. It looks like everyone else. Well, I bet had a really nice write-up, like all these other auctions do. That was number 2. Number 3, just there's too many auctions. And again, let's take a look at this. Let's have a look on here one more time. Window, let's share my screen with you here, because if we come to Whiskey Hunter, and again, we'll look at Whiskey Hunter shortly, because I think they're all right. They do a good job, but there's still things that they're missing. Right, so this is a database of auctioneers. So 9 to a page, 4 pages. So you've got 9, 18, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. There are 31 online whiskey auctions across the world. Look at that, 199,669. Go Whiskey Hammer, that's good. But there's 31 online auctions. That means technically you should be checking a new online auction every single day if you want to keep abreast of the market. There's too many. There's too many. There's just way too many. For the size of the market that there is now, there's way too many. Attention's divided, and we can't treat all of them the same. You can't treat the one result in one auction house and one result in another auction house the same, because almost likely Whiskey Hammer, we just saw them there, they're running themselves as a professional business, separate facilities, separate staff, everything. And yet some of those 31 will just be small father and son teams running it out of a bedroom somewhere, goodness knows where. But the barrier to entry to set up an online auction is practically nil. Like AWRS, premises license, personal license, a bit of insurance, and a bit of online bidding software that you can basically buy off the shelf anywhere nowadays. Stick your own stock in, and there you go. Like, the barrier to entry is incredibly low, and we're taking all of these results in. So if a bottle, it's a good way to explain this. If you put your house into sale at an online whiskey auction, let's go really weird, and it made £500. Is your house only worth £500? Of course it's not. It was in the wrong place with the wrong attention on it. And I do believe that a lot of these online whiskey houses or whiskey auctions that are going on now, they probably deserve to fold. Like, not deserve themselves personally, but the market can't handle the volume of auctions that there are now. And of course, you couple that with the crap ones having, crazy reserves. They're just going out there to get the lotting fee. It all just ends into sort of being a bit of a mess. So there's definitely, how do we sum this up then? There's definitely a part of the market slowdown, which is directly responsible or directly caused by the auctioneers themselves and their lack of having any sense of guidance to help new and potential buyers in. Any form of like premium and luxury marketing that goes alongside it. And yeah, I know, I get it. You're doing a monthly auction. There's no time to do it. Well, that's your decision to have a monthly auction. You know what I mean? Like you should be treating the goods with the respect that they're due. And then finally, like the auction scene has grown massively, and it's also shrunk massively though. So I think we're going to have to see some of these smaller auctions fold, or we just completely discount their lots from any form of aggregated data that we're looking at. So what do you think? Who do you think are the winners and losers in the auction market today? Because I know some are much better than others. I've deliberately not named any names in this video, but why don't you get down in the comments below, start the discussion, and we'll be back very soon, I promise, with a new video.